welcome to the 6th day of the Mosaic International South Asian Film Festival 2020, the virtual edition of MISAFF, and the Q&A for the short film program Spirituality and Connection. I'm Sally Rylett, one of the short film programmers for this year's festival. MISAFF is presented by CCAI, and the festival is running until this Saturday, December 12th at midnight, with a huge selection of outstanding films. Today we have the opportunity to talk to filmmakers from the incredible short film program Spirituality and Connection, which is made up of 6 incredible short films. Dance is My Gun by Marco Bollinger, Afterlife by Perry Lam, Surkana by Dinesh Das Sabu, Reflection by Hamza Kazi, Seva by Ripon Cinder, and Festival of Lamps by Danielle Rashid. Today with us, we have Ripon Cinder and Kenzie Woodrow with Seva, Perry Lam, Renita Kapoor, and Chris Maverico of Afterlife, and Dinesh Sabu of Surkana. And I'd like to present our host, who is the MISAFF star, Megha Sandhu. Megha was born in Montreal and discovered her love for acting when she was cast in 2 high school plays. As a teenager, Megha's innate passion for social activism, coupled with a flair for fashion, drew her to modeling and pageantry. In 2012, she won her title of Miss Teen Canada, and in 2019, she was the first runner-up at Miss Universe Canada. It eventually led her to her first role in the indie feature film, Arranged Marriage, a horror comedy where she plays Kamali, an American Punjabi girl struggling to navigate her way in an American society. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Behavioral Neuroscience with a minor in theater and is currently pursuing a full-time career in acting. So welcome everyone, and I'll pass it over to you, Megha.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Sally, and welcome everybody. I'm so excited to be here today hosting today's shorts for Spirituality and Connection. So welcome everybody. So let's just jump right into it. I really enjoyed watching these films. Let's start off with Surkana, which is directed by Dinesh Das Sabu. You know, after watching this film, I just got the impression that you were trying to evoke that God is really everywhere with us. You know, no matter your circumstances or whatever location you're in, God can be present. And I thought that this was really beautifully depicted, without going into too much detail and giving too much away, in the what appeared to be a trailer, if I understand correctly. So can you just tell me a little bit firstly about yourself, and then maybe talk a little bit about your film and what inspired it?
So my name's Dinesh, and I'm currently an assistant professor of digital media at Marquette University. Before that, I had about a 15-year career shooting social issue documentary. And the film that you saw was actually submitted for a thesis project at Stanford's documentary MFA program, which I only recently completed. So. Yeah, I mean, I think the way you described the film is so beautiful. I almost don't want to add anything to it. I guess speaking really broadly, like, you know, this profession, these truck drivers and these mechanics, it seemed like such a kind of brutal life. And I was really interested in how folks created meaning and connection in this really, really brutal kind of lifestyle, as well as in this very, very isolated, tiny part of the United States. So I think you're right. This idea of spirituality, of connecting in some kind of almost metaphysic way was really important.
Yeah, I thought that was beautifully depicted. Okay, we'll come back to you in a little bit. I want to move on to our next short film. It's called Afterlife, and it's directed by Perry Lam. And with us, we also have Chris and Renita. Perry, can you talk to us a little bit about your film and what inspired it?
Yeah, sure. My film is Afterlife. I directed it earlier this year, before COVID happened. The film was made. It's a science fiction short film about a man dealing with loss, told through the lens of through a science fiction lens. What I'm trying to convey with the film is, no matter what you do, you still can't redo your mistakes, and you just have to live with the regrets of your act and the consequences of your actions. And I wanted to tell the story through a bit of a bit with science fiction as well as a bit of religious ideas in it, where it's a science fiction world that takes place 5 minutes into the future, but it still retains a bit of religion in it. Like there's praying altars, there is the concept of life and death, and within my film. But I just wanted to mix it up with the genres and to show that Singapore is Singapore is just this huge melting pot, pretty much. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love the use of science fiction. I thought that was so unique. We don't often see Asian and South Asian leads in this genre. Is this genre something that you've always liked or you've wanted to experiment with?
Yes. Previously, I did another science fiction film called Tony. It was an Australian science fiction film, and it was a post-apocalyptic film about a man who has to constantly press a button to stop the apocalypse. So that was my previous one, and when I got funding for this one, for Afterlife, I jumped at the opportunity because it was still the direction that I wanted to go to in terms of like science fiction, and in terms of because it's always been one of my favorite genres to explore, because there's so much material and so much malleability when it comes to the genre. You can tell different stories within that arena. So that was what I wanted to tackle. I wanted to tackle something about family relationships through science fiction.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely got the notion of caring for parents, and then how much do you care for that? It's always a struggle, right? How much do you stay at home? How much do you decide to leave? And yeah, that was really nicely depicted. Chris and Anita, can you talk to us a little bit about your journey through this film and what drew you to the story?
Sorry, what was that for me?
Yes, Chris. What drew you to the script?
Oh, right. I mean, Perry and I had been talking about, handling different subject matters through different films over a number of years. I mean, because, Perry had been wanting to come home and do something significant. And him and I, we basically wanted to team up on something meaningful and entertaining at the same time that hopefully could cross over to many regions. And when Afterlife, when he first sent me the writing of Afterlife, the screenplay of Afterlife, what drew me in was a tremendous potential for drama while also having this sci-fi thrill and intrigue to it. So I felt that my journey as an actor, it gave me, it brought me to a point where I could explore that scope for performance while also being part of a narrative which could cross over across languages and boundaries. And we are so grateful that that's what actually happened with Afterlife, because it even got dubbed into Russian language, which is, I'm not sure many Singaporean films or Asian films can say that happened for them.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, guys, for being here today. And we'll get to a little bit more in detail a bit later. I now want to move on to our next short film called Seva, directed by, with us today, we have Ripin Sindar and Kenzie Woodrow. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Ripin, can you tell us a little bit about your short and what it means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Seva, I typically work in narrative and documentary. This is a huge passion project. And it really came out of me, venturing out and collecting footage on my trip when I was in India, and kind of wrestling with identity at the same time of, well, here I am in America as a Sikh American, and I am working in film, and we are dealing with a lot of different stereotypes or otherism in the country. So how can I really make a piece of work that demonstrates that, right? And it really came out as a call to action. I had felt a very particular way after 9/11 happened. And then again, when the Oak Creek massacre happened, I think that was just all of these emotions really boiling inside of me and saying, I've got to channel this by making something that bridges, a very peaceful religion founded on serving, but why is it not really understood in a country where there's not room for us to be understood? So that's really how it happened. And I got a very small grant to start it, but then Kenzie became such a fundamental partner in crime for this, because as we all know with films, we can have a little bit of money and a really big idea. And then Kenzie, if you want to really speak about how we started, reorganizing and using our footage to make this really happen.
Yeah, so I came in after Ripon had shot most of this, and my expertise is more in the digital realm, like how can we get as far as possible with absolutely no money. So we worked together to make the edit something that was feasible with the budget, and also using animation. Like if you see the film, you'll see these animated slides. So we were just trying to make this piece work with what we had. And it was so amazing to work with Ripon because she taught me so much about the Sikh faith and about the Sikh experience in America. And then what I brought to the table was kind of the perspective of someone who was new to this topic. So we could work together to make sure that in the film, audiences who are familiar with Sikhism and who aren't can both get important messages from it.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure if you ladies talked about it, but how did the two of you actually meet? And
you can take this one, Ripon, if you want.
Okay. So Kenzie and I were invited to act on a piece where we were performing as best friends. And over the course of the day, we were talking, and we both shared interest in documentary film in particular. And so we have this running joke by the end of it that really formed our friendship. And when we had this project, it just became a catalyst of sisterhood, really, and bringing in different perspectives. So
awesome. I thought this was such a beautifully done film. It was so important to get the message out and to educate audiences who may not have been aware and may still not be aware of what Sikhism is and what it means. Can you ladies talk to us a little bit about how this film was received?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting because, like you're saying, people still don't know, and I think the media, in doing this, you really learn the responsibility of the media and coverage. And so, especially when the Black Lives Matter movement was happening, I was getting articles from a lot of people because it was, they were seeing Sikhs really gather in different areas and providing large amounts of food. And so just the fact that people, when they're watching this, they are realizing that it's not just a Sikh struggle necessarily. I mean, there's people from all walks of life who are struggling to be seen. And also, the idea of serving and seva, it's just been such a great response to hear people feel and feel the same struggle in a lot of ways, and now be curious and wonder about each other. So, and Kenzie, if you want to add to that as well.
Yeah, I think the reaction I've seen the most is people just walking away and saying, how did I not know any of that? In America, Sikhism, I believe, is the 5th largest religion, but people don't talk about it, or in the world, but people don't know about it. Like, I grew up in the Northeast, and for Ripon to be the first person to teach me about Sikhism, like, there needs to be more education in America about religion, because there are so many of them here. And especially with Sikhism, it's so beautiful, seva and all the practices that at least people like in my family who have seen it, they're just so like humbled by the fact that they didn't know any of this before.
And also, I think, to add to that, if we can all as filmmakers continue to make more work like this, where we are humanizing the human, then we're doing a job at allowing people to see us for who we are. And maybe, just maybe, that can prevent so much rage and resistance and hate that exists.
Absolutely. I think this fits so beautifully into the theme of today's shorts, which is connection, and that all humans are connected at a very fundamental level. Renita, I want to jump back to you a little bit. I know we skipped over you a bit. Sorry about that. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about your experience in Afterlife and your journey through the process?
Sure. It was a beautiful experience. Working with Chris, I've already experienced before. I worked with him, and he's the one who connected me and Perry. And yes, I did audition for the role, and luckily I got through. Thanks, guys. I loved working with them, and the experience of the way Perry made me understand this character. I mean, I had to do the same scene with emotions and then without emotions. So it was fun, it was difficult, but the whole process of disconnecting and still connecting with your son and acting in that way was, it was tough, but I really enjoyed it, really. And it was a very, very heart-wrenching story, the way the mother and son are. And it's so common. I mean, when we grow older, then we realize, oh my God, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we spend time with our family or with our mom or anybody for that matter? And when the time passes by, that's when you realize. So I think the movie had such a beautiful message, and I personally like doing work which has a good message. It's very important. I think films should be used for entertainment or for conveying a message. So yeah, I totally loved it. And thanks to Perry and Chris, I'm a part of this family. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought you embodied the role so beautifully. I almost didn't even recognize. I was saying that I really enjoyed your depiction of the mother, and I thought that the connection between you and your son was really nicely done. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm curious to know how COVID has affected everyone here in terms of their filmmaking process, or just, if Dinesh, you'd like to start talking to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I only make documentaries, right? So it involves being out in the world, engaging with people, which I have not been able to do at all in the last 9 months. Fortunately, there's a feature-length project that I have been working on almost for the last decade that I was able to kind of shift and focus more energy on, and kind of be housebound in that way. I've also started like an archival experimental film that involves only taking found footage and re-editing it. Again, it's the only kind of practice to be housebound. So unfortunately, as a doc filmmaker, I really can't shoot work or even responsibly try to involve people in planning to shoot, because we don't really know when this will all end.
Yeah, absolutely. And Perry, how about you? I know you mentioned you're in Singapore, so how are things there, and how are you dealing?
Oh, well, right now I'm currently just working on a couple of projects, as well as working. I work in news as well, so it's like a 24/7 thing where we are constantly like pushing out content. But when it came to Afterlife, that was we in Singapore we were shooting in February. So how COVID affected me and the film was on the second day of on the first day of the shoot, one of my producers called and said one of the locations that we wanted to use could not be used due to the COVID lockdown. So we literally had to scramble to find a location like within, I think, 12 hours or something like that. And we had to find that. That was the office scene where Chris was working. So I was left gobsmacked for a while, but we had to like iron everything out, and we managed to get a location through one of our producers, who did a really great job suggesting like, hey, what about this one? So we got the location. We had to recast the role of Kurt's colleague, because the guy couldn't show up at a specific time for that shoot. So since there was a change in location, so we recasted that as well within like a couple of hours. the guy did great. And this was one of those things where I realized, and this was one of the things that I enjoy working with actors. Once we prepped, once we prepped and rehearsed, they more or less know what they are doing. So, and they are really good. Chris was great. Renita was great. The actor playing Kurt's colleague was great. So I just let them own the stage. While I just like, okay, look, this is how we're gonna block it. This is what's gonna happen. This is what the scene is about. What's the core of what's the theme behind the scene? And they just ran with it, and it was great just watching them act. But at the same time, it was just trusting people. When it came to like a really desperate situation, like all I had to do was just set up all the locations and recast the role, and everything else would work itself out. And that was what happened. Everyone knew what they were doing, so I would say I was pretty lucky and pretty grateful to be working with such great people.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And Ripon, can you talk to us a little bit? So your film was finished, right, prior to COVID happening and lockdown, and even yeah, okay.
Yeah, it had just started its festival run in February. So it was building momentum, and then we had lockdown, and I was actually producing another film that was shut down right as the order was passed in the US. So it's been a lot of juggling. I'm sure everyone can really relate to the ebbs and flows of things. But, you know, thankfully, I have another film that is now in post-production. And writing a lot. And I think what it also does is it makes you rewire yourself and think, well, okay, if this is not going to go away anytime soon, then how do we as filmmakers still write stories or do what we can control to, achieve creating some work that we value. So that's been really on my plate a lot lately. And also, thankfully, I was able to direct 2 commercials related to science and bring in a narrative approach to it.
Wonderful. Exactly. Like you said, it's all about making use of the time despite the situation. We're still artists, we're still, creatives, we can be working at it. So I'm so glad to hear that. Sally, I'm going to now pass it over to you. Thank you, everybody.
I had a question for everyone again also, and it's obviously something that we found with similar themes in all these films are the themes of spirituality and human connection. And I was wondering if you could speak about how the theme of human connection, especially sometimes in a world where there's a lot of disconnection between people, how that played into your films. I guess we can start with Dinesh.
Sure. So yeah, this film was about these long-haul truck drivers stopping over in this really remote truck stop in Oklahoma. And so when I originally wanted to make a film with the truck driver just traveling across the United States, and it was going to be like without any dialogue, and it was going to kind of resemble the Odyssey in some ways. Logistically, that proved really impossible. So I decided to just kind of stay at the truck stop. But I think it served that theme that you're describing, because thinking about what a long solitary process this is, and again, how these folks are able to create meaning and find connections in this, really, really brief period of time, stopping over at this place.
Definitely. I mean, that sounds like the originality would have been a very interesting film, but I think it worked out really well just to watch people come and go from the truck stop. And Perry and Chris and Renita, over to you.
Yeah. Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Sure. Sorry for that.
Sorry.
So how does the theme of connection, or arguably in a lot of these films, kind of a lot of disconnection between humans and family members, play? How did that theme play into your film?
Oh, All right. Thanks for repeating the question. For Afterlife, and this was something that I discussed with Renita and Chris and the rest of the cast, which was to show that, and also with the cinematographer Kai. The thing was, when I discussed it with Kai, I wanted it to look, uh, I wanted to use pastel colors to show a very artificial, very it looks like a happy place. But at the same time, when I'm discussing with the actors, I just want it to show it's all artificial or superficial. It is more, it's it's a happy society with unhappy people. That's the way I would show it. That's the way I would show it. Everyone seems, uh, even the salesman who sells the device to Kurt, he doesn't even look happy most of the time. He's only happy when he makes a sale. So it's these ideas where the society in the film, the world that was created, connections have essentially been broken, and we have Kurt who is still trying to maintain the last connection that he has with someone who has already passed. So I say that's how the theme of spirituality and connection comes into play within the film. If you guys, if Kurt or Renita, if you guys want to jump in, go ahead. That's what I have to say.
Yes.
Ranita,
Okay. So I mean, I believe in spirits. I believe in I have people around me, and so playing that role, I could still feel if the body is not there, you're still connected, whether it's in the physical form or through energy. And like Perry said, everybody looks so happy in the society, but inside the house, inside the families, everybody's going through so much pain, and they're so disconnected. And we're so busy in our lives, we disconnect from our own closest of our people. And when they go away, we want to connect with them. So the way Perry showed it, it's like, you want to connect with someone and you still can't connect. It's such a helpless feeling. And a lot of people gave us that feedback here, that it's such a great message, at least for the younger generation. We are also busy in our own lives, running here and there, and just stay connected with your people, the ones whom you really love, because once they're gone, they're gone. You just can't connect back. So yeah, very well done.
allow
Chris?
me to put actor's perspective on this, because I looked at it in such a way that um, performance in general gives me this release of sort of a spiritual release. If if I might call it that. There's a lot of things that you wish you could say, that you wish you could express and do, which a lot of times you might think, maybe you're shy to do it, or the situation is not right, it's not an opportune moment, or maybe the bond that you share with someone is not great enough for you to honestly express how you authentically feel about that person. But here we have a film, or any great uh, well-written drama in general. It provides you a scope to express all those things, and play with different emotions and see where it goes. Like, I mean, Perry and Renita might remember that there were some scenes that we did, even though Perry had written it in a certain way. When we were rehearsing, Perry was just like, okay, these are the main these are the main things we want to explore in this scene, but you guys just take it away and we'll just see where it goes. So he was completely open to where that bond, that mother and son bond, was going to lead us to. So since when filmmakers give you that kind of space, that explorative liberty in a way, it sort of unleashes you and allows you to go in different directions, and also gives you great variety in editing, and also for the audience to see, oh wow, such a conversation can go there. or this kind of a moment can lead to such a situation. So for me, it was an opportunity to express a lot of things that you usually cannot express, or in some people's lives, they don't, they're not able to do it. So acting was that for me, and Afterlife certainly provided one of those great opportunities for me.
Thank you. It's really, really beautiful to hear your all your perspectives on that. And that's true. I think, yeah, that's interesting to hear about how acting is that. And in a sense, I think arts in general is a great way to explore things that maybe are you don't directly explore outside of art. And Rupin and Kenzie, could you talk a bit more? I know you touched on it previously about how spirituality and human connection plays into Seva.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I think as the human condition, we all want to feel connected. And we are always on this journey to be heard and to be understood. And we become defensive about that in a lot of ways. But ultimately, we want to feel, we want to feel that touch and that connection, and that spiritual connection, whatever it is. And I think this film was eye-opening for me. And I've been in the faith since I was young. I was taught to do seva, but I think understanding why we do that and the bigger role that it plays in feeling connected with other people from all walks of life. I mean, it's been really transformative for me to look at the world and say, I want to now wonder about you. It's not just about my religion, because if we feel connected, then we are one. And if we can look at strangers and we can see them and see ourselves in them and themselves in us, then I think we can walk through the world a little bit better. And that really has made me feel even more connected with myself. And also, like with Kenzie saying, being part of with this film, I mean, really having Kenzie as my partner in crime, but from two very different walks of life, from two very different areas, two different, faiths, to come together and work on a project that is so symbolic in many ways of how we can have these differences, but be very alike and reach for the common goal. Like, I don't know, I'm really grateful to have had this experience. And Kenzie, if you want to jump in on that as well.
Yeah, I just want to add that I think there's this phenomenon that happens sometimes where if you see a group that is different from you, sometimes it's easy to feel like, well, they must not want me there. And I think that at least in America, that keeps things very divided, because it's not just I don't want to be with that group, but that group must not want me. People really are projecting everywhere they go. Whereas if we just put all that aside, if the man who, if the gunman in Oak Creek had walked into that temple and wanted to connect, he would have been welcomed with open arms, So I think we all just need to understand that deep down within humans, we all want to see the good in each other, but we have to give each other the opportunity to do that. And that is putting yourself out there, meeting people who are different from you. And for me, that's what Seva was.
It's very beautifully put. Thank you. I will pass it over to Mega.
That was so beautifully put. I'm curious to know what's next for you guys. If you guys can share on any future projects. Dinesh, we can start with you.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this experimental archival film. It's about, there's an actor named by the name of Sabu as well. He was really prominent in the 1930s to the 1950s, and he started in a lot of these like really Orientalist kind of B movies in the UK and in the US. So what I'm doing is I'm taking all of his films and kind of recutting them to recenter Sabu inside each film in an experimental way. So it's kind of a mess, but it's also a ton of fun to work on.
Awesome. And where can the audience members find you if they want to reach out, collaborate?
Oh, so yeah, I quit all of social media like 6 months ago, which was perfect timing. But yeah, I mean, my email address is pretty easy to find. I'm a faculty member at Marquette University, so if you just go through the, Marquette, you can find my contact info pretty easily.
Perfect. All right. And Perry, what about you? Any future projects coming up? I don't know if you can speak about them.
Hi. Oh yeah. I'm currently working on several. I'm just trying to hit as many. I want to try out different genres right now. So it's like I'm going for something like a horror. I'm like exploring like a horror script that I'm currently writing, and hopefully if anything happens, yeah, you guys will get the call. So definitely I will. I'm exploring that about combining like social issues or with with a genre such as horror is always something that I always wanted to try. It's like how Afterlife combined like family drama with science fiction. It's the same thing with me where I like combining two things that you don't usually think will fit, but if it fits, it might work. So I'm exploring a horror short film next. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And where can people find you if they want to work with you, collaborate?
Oh, you can find me at on Instagram. My Instagram is Perry PRRYLAM 29. So it's Perry Lam 29 on Instagram. So you can just find me there. Just drop me a message if you guys want to work on something. We'd love to link up.
Awesome. Chris, what about you? Any future projects coming up?
Oh yes, the major one that we'll be doing in 2021 is this superhero series called Sacred Guardian Singer. It is Singapore's first independent tokusatsu superhero series, and I'm playing the major villain in that show. This is something that we're very, very excited about. We launched our trailer at the Comic Con last year. So that's one thing. The next thing is I just completed filming for a feature film yesterday, and this is going to be on an OTT platform. I don't know which OTT platform, but it is the producer told me that this is the first film of its kind in a sense that the Indian diaspora in Singapore or in this part of the world is being explored in such a way. And it's being it's meant for international release. But before that, it would be doing the film festival rounds and all that. And what drew me to that project was it's about women empowerment. It's got this strong sisterhood theme. It's about the struggles of two different women in a modern world and the men in their lives. So that's where my character and another male character comes in. So I'm looking forward to these two, and of course, there's these other survival actor jobs that you do, and once in a while, I still take the occasional student film to keep honing my craft.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, that's congratulations. It seems like you have your hands full. And Renita, what about you? Any future projects coming up you can speak of?
One of my Bollywood films just released like a week back. So just getting reviews now, and it's a beautiful story. It's about girl child. I'm a strong supporter of girls, especially in India, to get education and become independent. So that's why I took up this project, and I'm really happy that the message is going out. And yeah, there's a web series I'm a part of. It's called City of Dreams. It's on Disney Hotstar, and season 2. So it's gonna be airing very, very soon. So I'm just looking forward. And yeah, a couple of projects in the pipeline, but thanks to COVID, I can't travel to India. So I do travel to India for shoots, but right now everything is stuck. So just waiting for things to open up. Yeah.
Awesome. And Ripon and Kenzie, what's next for you two? What are the plans, if you can share?
Yeah. So Kenzie and I are actually in the process now of expanding SEVA. So that's what we have going on in the doc world. And then in addition, for me personally, I run a company with my brother called Cinderella Company, and we focus on South Asian stories for change. So the film that I have in post-production now is called Broken Drawer, and Perry, it actually, it made me think of you because it's also dealing with death and trauma, and right now I'm in the process of expanding that as well. So it's an interesting year all around, like Renita said. You have festivals that are stop, go, and as writers and directors and creatives, there's projects in the pipeline, and we're just trying to reconfigure how that's going to look. But I'm really optimistic about it, and I love doing this. So it's really what calls me every day.
Awesome. And where can we find you on social media? Or?
Yes. So unlike Dinesh, I'm all over social media. You can find me. My account on Instagram is actually it's Cinder, my last name Cinderella _CO, and you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Sally, I'll pass it over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It was amazing to hear even more about your fantastic films. I encourage everyone who's watching us on Facebook Live, if you haven't already seen Shorts Program 4, you have 3 more days to watch it. So go ahead, please watch Shorts Program 4. Watch all of the amazing films still up on MISAFF. Yeah, thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and have a nice rest of your day.